I think then, given this context, this setup, this is how you've found the opportunities, narrowed them out, figured them out through collection of like telescoping two by twos. Let's get into then, if you know this context, then how do you decide what product to build, right? Like even in the context of safety, right? Even in the context of security in a manufacturing setup or in a warehouse, given these dynamics, tell us a little bit about how you think about product innovation, how you think about what the company and the team should build. Like, what's the right angle of attack? Like, you've given us the wedge in terms of the industry and in terms of the problem statement. It'd be brilliant to also similarly understand how you narrow down or select the product, the specific capability that you want your AI tools and your software to offer the clients who work with you.
Sure. And it again, and I approach this very simply, right, as to what is the problem you're solving. Okay. Now the problem, what was the problem that I'm solving is that you have data points that is coming in from various sources. People find it hard to unify them. So what are you trying to do? You are trying to first unify those data points and then build something on top of them to solve for the use cases that you're trying to do. So simply put, so let's take, say, a safety example. Now, today, a safety inside a factory is done manually, right? Typically, maybe once a month, once in a quarter, depending on your safety budgets, right? And the manpower that you have. People will come and take some sort of a schedule and say, okay, is this in place? Is this in place? Is this being done or not? My use case to them is you should be able to do 60-70% of this at a click of a button, right? It starts from that, Rohit. The core, the product build is an outcome of what the customer need and the promise that you want to deliver. As simple as that. So the focus there is that I want to do 70% of that job at the click of a button. Okay, so and it's very simple English. Now, if you have to do that, what do you need, right? You need a unification layer where all these data points are coming in. If you need a unification layer, there is a hardware enabler that we need with open protocols, not getting into technicalities. So once you do that, you have a unified management system over which workflows are built. So for us, and maybe I don't know whether I'm answering your question in the way that you want, but for us, it was very, very simple. That it was the starting point always is what is the problem that you're trying to solve and to what degree that you're trying to solve, right? It cannot be that, okay, this is the product, let's see what we can do with it. The starting point is always, and this is not just in this setup, right? It's always, even if you're building a product, if I was building, say, to give you an example, a parallel, we built the first flexibility product in travel ever in ClearTrip. Okay. It was the first amendment product that we did. It was in partnership with a large insurance, digital first insurance company. But the thing was that travelers keep changing their plans. The ClearTrip TG used to be the frequent traveler. And your meetings come up, meetings get preponed. How do you change it? I want that flexibility. Now, once you do that, that was the thing. Now, the answer was not insurance. That was an outcome. The problem statement was I want to give my customers flexibility to change their flights 2 hours before their flight departure, because that's the regulatory ask.
Yep.
To do that, I built out the product, which was insurance backed, did the math like any insurer along with our partner to build that product out so that as Rohit as a customer, 2.5 hours before the flight, if your original flight booking was $6,000, pay $300 more. 3 hours before the flight, change the flight, right? And change to any future flight. Now,
right.
So the point there, it's independent of what you do at the back. That insurer is just there, right? Obviously they were a huge partner, but I'm saying that is independent of what you wanted to build. We did that for the international piece, by the way, and that's a different example wherein we didn't get an insurer, by the way, right? The insurer said, "Was the international, nobody has done globally. I cannot do it." We underwrote it on our own to start with. As luck would have it, COVID hit and the losses were so humongous that we had to shut down the product. But if you ask me, still, the problem statement was how do I give that flexibility to the international
Right.
traveler also? So I'm
Right.
just using that example because that's slightly easier to understand as compared to the complex world
Of
of
course,
AI
of course.
and what I'm talking about. But so the starting point is that is the problem that I'm looking to solve. How do I solve it? Right?
Understood.
And how do I build it out? So I'll tell you, and this is one more nuance there. As to when you identify the problem, speak to customers, but please speak to stakeholders also. The stakeholders will give you insights that the customers will not. And I'll give you an example. Physical AI, when you're running a factory, I'll ask you, hey, what's your problem in life, right? You will say safety. You will say, I don't know whether my workers are working, or I don't know when to maintain my machines. Those are use cases, right? Preventive maintenance, like that, 100 of them. But he will never say that how easy or difficult is it to deploy any solution, which
Right.
the
Right.
stakeholder will say. So when I spoke to stakeholders in the US, he said, yes, boss, these use cases are right, but the core juice is how easily in a frictionless environment can you get a solution up and running.
Right.
Can you do that for me? If you do that, then I'll be your technology partner. I'll take you on. Just in simple terms,
Got
right?
it.
So
Got
that
it.
insight the customer will never give. Or even if a customer gives, the CIO of the customer will give, the CEO, COO will never give because he's disconnected from that problem statement. He's only connected to the operational problem state. So I think that identifying the problem, the right problem, not deviating from that problem as much as possible, because experience tells me that more often than not you're pushed away from that problem statement because
Got
of
it.
constraints, etc. So I think
Got it.
for me, and I'm not a core techie, right? For me, and that's helped me to some extent, wherein I'm able to hold ground, saying that no, this is the problem statement. Let's not move away from it. If I'm moving away from it, I would rather not do it. That kind of a conviction, rather than trying to do something which was not originally envisaged.
Understood. I find it helpful to sort of dimensionalize the product that you're building in maybe two parts, right? One, there is a read component, which is the data fusion, the ingestion, all of the sensors, cameras, different things, including, right? If there's some hardware integration that's required to fetch information from the different things. And then there's the right aspect, which is what you ultimately do once you have this information available to yourself, right? The read and the right side of it. I think very, very clear on how the read capability functions, how you narrowed down, how you decided that, look, this is how we need to collect data. This is the data that is worth even evaluating or looking at. Before moving on a little bit more into, say, GTM, into ops, into that part of the discussion, could you also give us one last flavor on what does the read side of the product look like, right? Like very clear on the right side, right? Very clear on how you read, what you read, and what that entire piece looks like. But on the right side, on the outcome orientedness of what you manage to deliver for your clients, be helpful to understand a little bit about what you've decided to build, some insights on how you set this, how you chose, right? Like this is what the stakeholder, the customers will actually benefit from on the right side once we've been able to unify and analyze all this massive amounts of data for them.
Fair. So what the attempt is that, and because we built on the earlier example, I'll use the same one. Okay. Say there is a fire incident in a factory. Okay. Now, today, if there is a fire incident, in case if there is a fire alarm, for fire sensor, which will go out and people respond. Now, to answer your right. So today, when I built out my when my system say is running in an ideal state scenario, the sensor picks it up, the camera focuses on the area where this incident is happening, is able to zero in on the coordinate. Now the right part comes in. The exact location is sent to, say, the as per the escalation matrix where this incident is happening, across the escalation matrix, and within a defined SLA, the response team has to reach there. Right? And the ideal end state would be over time, because it takes time for the system to learn the context. There is a chance of false positives, as we all know. Over time, once the system understands the context, then how this system has to engage with an external party and call for the fire engine in very, very simplistic terms. Right? So this use case today would be, hey, there is a fire alarm going on. Where is it? it would take some time for the okay, so let me start even more basic. Lot of times the sensors don't work, cameras don't work. If you are running a 100-acre factory, if you have maybe 1,000 devices, if 20 are not working, you won't even know, right? It's tough for you to know. First of all, you have a system which would tell you whether it's up, down in a live environment. So that's a starting point. Assuming it's working. A fire sensor goes off, the alarm goes off. Where is it? Which is the exact location? How do you respond to it? Somebody has to go and physically look at which is that space where something like this is happening, and then take a call. Okay, to this kind of an incident, what is the response that you need to do? And you lose time, right? It's an emergency. As compared to this is where, first of all devices up and running. This is where the sensor has gone off, being able to zero in on the exact location. Based on that location, you have the exact identified people who are supposed to respond with their certain defined SLAs. If the image is not able to track that person who's supposed to reach within a certain SLA, that also becomes a cause of concern, because tomorrow, if he's supposed to reach within 3 minutes, if he's reaching after 15 minutes, you also have a productivity angle there, right? Is he doing his job well? Is it effective, right? Now, and then taking one step further as to, do you need outside help? So this is just one very simple example of read and write. Now, obviously, this is a long journey. It takes time to build out such products, but it's just an example as to how we are thinking about.